This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. You know what? This is a special one. We actually did AV Week already this week. It's kind of cool. We had a couple of gentlemen on from UK and Germany, respectively, that will be posting on Monday. But because I like hanging out with you guys so much, actually Mr. Neto and I came up with a crazy idea. I'll blame him in case this goes south really quickly. We're going to do an open mic, and as luck would have it, this is actually kind of the fourth anniversary of AV Week. AV Week, your wrap up of audiovisual. My name is Tim Albright.
Figures after 4 years we still have technical difficulties.
Yeah, after 4 years we still have technical difficulties. So here's what we're going to do. We have posted on the Twitterverse and the Facebookverse the Hangout link, and if you're not familiar with what that is, the four gentlemen here have all been on before, but they know what that is. Click on it and join the conversation. So far, what we have is Mr. Mike Shen from IMS. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon.
Mike and I are going to start our own little club called Director of Operations Club.
Yes.
Mike can be in it. Harry Mead of NetAV can be in it, and me. And that's pretty much it so far. Yeah. So,
because we need more exclusivity in this industry.
Hey, you know what? That's the disembodied voice of Josh Strago, our editor-in-chief, who has some really cool things going on. I'll let him talk about that in a second. Chris Neto, the brainchild of this very program, this special one, and last but not least, Bill O'Donnell, who is no longer an EdTech virgin. He was on.
No, it's been busted and then some.
Yeah. So, how was that first one for you?
Well, it was fun. As I say, I'm pretty sure Greg is still secretly getting A+ points for every time a restaurant box is in his background, but that's my theory.
Probably.
I heard a great story about you on EdTech.
Oh, do I?
And is it something you can share, or is that something you can't share?
I think I could share it.
Okay, share it.
Please.
Well, you were on EdTech. I watched it, and so did, I don't know how many thousand viewers that we have viewing this thing.
200,000.
Thousand. Single? Thousands?
200,000.
Millions.
I'm sorry, millions. Yeah. Go ahead with your story.
Millions.
And you happened to mention AQAV when we started talking about quality.
Oh.
Talking about quality because I wasn't on the show. And you specifically mentioned a class that Mary Maltese was taking. Well, the scuttlebutt for the grapevine that you mentioned it at the 42-minute mark.
He even knows what minute.
That prompted calls to AQAV asking, "Where's this class? When's the next class?" And you thought nobody listened to you, Bill. Kudos.
Oh. I'm a shameless shill.
No, you're not shameless. You have all kinds of shame.
I do. I'm Catholic, so it's baked in.
Oh, good Lord. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That explains a whole lot about Amsterdam. All right. First and foremost, our buddies over at Rave, as they are wont to do from time to time, they had a couple of scoops, as it was in the industry. The first one up is AMX CEO Rashid Skop is going bye-bye. He is resigning. Typically, what we will... Hey, that's my email. Typically, what we will do is, if something like that happens, and you try to do your best journalistic checking and double checking, and so we got some email back and forth between AMX and us, and we got an official, unofficial response. Basically, it's from the VP of Global Marketing, Eric. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Eric's last name. If Bradford Ben was here, he could probably do it for me. But basically saying, yes, indeed, after spending a year with the Harmon Group and last 6 months trying to restructure things, as you know, companies are wont to do when they purchase them. You know, Rashid is stepping down. Rashid's been there for a long time. I mean, he's been there since 2001, I believe. He's been CEO since 2005. Mr. Neto, from your standpoint, what does this mean? What's it going to do to AMX and in general now that Rashid is stepping down?
Well, I mean, you would think that this is I don't want to say makes sense because people stepping down doesn't make sense a lot, but when the team actually joined and became a very good part of Harmon,
There is no finer way than that, which Alison Bear chose.
what's that?
That's Brock.
The first charity of which we are both patrons. And it could be a better one.
Welcome to the live show, sir. So once we became one, you would think that the CEO would be stepping down. And I never thought that this was going to continue on. Thing.
Environmentalist. He and Sir David Attenborough officially opened the Natural History Museum's Darwin Centre.
I have no idea what on earth.
Brock, what are you watching, sir?
Yeah, what are you watching, Brock?
Please share with the rest of the class, Brock.
Yeah.
I didn't know Canada could do commercials for AstraZeneca.
Hey, Mark Hudson.
I clicked on the link, and that's what I got. I must have. Somebody must have thought I needed the drugs.
I don't know what happened. It says the
That's
excuse.
funny.
is
I
everyone
keep
and
getting
the
Viagra
presentation
drug commercials for some reason.
So I'm actually sitting here just listening in, boys. I got work to do,
All right, sir.
but I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Mr. Mark Coxon, ladies and gentlemen, how are you, sir?
Yo,
You there?
I'm mute. There we are.
There you
What's
go.
going on, guys? Here I am.
There
Mark,
you
are you
are.
getting ready to enter a boxing ring or something?
He's ready to work out. He's a
He's
Yeah,
still
that's
I
what
got
I'm
punched.
teaching Muay Thai.
he's a deadly
I got
weapon,
punched
dude.
a little. So, yeah, I'm rocking a shiner. A little bit of one.
Wearing it matte white, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
exactly.
Mr. Netta, go back to what you were saying about Rashid.
Well, I mean, he was the CEO of AMX. He joined another company in Harmon that had a CEO. I understand that there are different groups within Harmon. I don't know if there is other CEOs within the groups. I mean, it's not entirely impossible to know that, to think that. But, I think that this is all part of their, aligning and getting everybody structured under the same umbrella. He's led it. He's taken it to a certain point. Now it's part of Harmon. It's Harmon's thing. I think Harmon's going to control over it now.
All right, Mr. Shen, from your standpoint, what does this mean?
I think one of the articles that I had read had pointed to some belief system differences between he and the rest of the executive team for Harmon. So, I think that they're parting ways, maybe just with a difference of opinion on what direction they need to go in or that they want to go in. He's certainly helped the brand immensely. Look at the acquisition just this year. So, I think he's done great things with AMX, and I would wish him the best of luck. And now it's time to see who's going to take over the reins.
In case you missed that acquisition, that would be the acquisition of SVSI, which, according to Sean Robinson from AMX, that was actually started around ISE. I'm not going to say that it was started at ISE, but around ISE 2014. Think about that timeline for a second. So they were already in talks with SVSI, and then unbeknownst to anybody else, right, the ownership group of AMX was talking with Harmon. And apparently, again, according to Sean Robinson, who we talked to, Josh and I talked to him at AMX, or at the SVSI booth at Infocom. Basically, it was a real quick call to Andy Whitehead at SVSI, said, and that basically saying, hang on just 1 second, pause that thought, right, while all the regulatory and everything that had to happen, because Harmon's a public company, right? SVSI was privately held, AMX was privately held at the time, but there's a lot of paperwork we know just from having buddies and pals and friends inside Harmon. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do and things you have to sign to keep legal, honestly, with the SEC. All right, Mr. Strego, does this do anything to AMX? Does it help? Does it hurt?
It's too soon to tell. It's the departure of a leader, but it's also a departure of a leader in a company that's going through drastic transition. So, I mean, what was it we heard all the jokes made that the AMX paychecks finally started saying Harmon on them earlier this year? They're going through major transitions, and they just added SVSI, as we were just talking about, and they're looking at new ways of doing things. They're looking at growing. They're looking at expanding, and they're looking at, I mean, Harmon just completely rebranded this week. So now the thing that they're a part of has just rebranded itself. So now we're looking at, okay, well, how is this unification all going to take place? Were there too many cooks in the kitchen? Was there a vision differential? And how does that all come into play? So it's really too soon to tell if this is a good or a bad thing for AMX as an independent entity, but I think it's more than likely a good thing when it comes to the actual grouping within Harman itself.
Yeah, but except they're not an independent entity, right? They are a part of. They're a part of Harman, right?
Well, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So it'll be interesting, but I think it'll probably, in the long run, I think his contribution is well documented and well known and well appreciated and can't be discounted in any capacity. But I think that given where AMX currently is and where AMX seems to be heading, this is probably going to allow for unification because there might not be as much of an old guard sort of mentality as, well, this is how we've done it.
All right, I can see that a little bit, all right, Bill, do you see any changes from well, not only just in the education space, but in general?
In general, I was just say I'm a little sad. I'm actually kind of sad to hear that Rashid has left. Mostly because I remember from a while back with I actually used to take training classes with AMX, and pretty much all the trainers had nothing but high praise to say about Rashid because he was one of these guys that would actually go and take the engineers, and they would take when I think it was AMX Architect, and Rashid actually went and pushed those guys, pushed the software designers and said, here, actually make a project with this, and he held the engineers held their feet to the fire, and he pushed for a lot of actual improvements. It wasn't just oh, we're going to go and do this. He actually pushed for practicality on the thing. So I'm sad that he's resigned. But at the same time, though, I think Josh is right in that if there's less of the old guard, then it is kind of more of a, well, this is the big picture that we're going for. You guys need to focus on these select channels. So I think it allows for a bit more unified product array.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Coxon, are you just here to hang out, or do you want to comment on Rashid?
Well, I hate to say it, but I probably agree with Josh too that it's too early to tell.
I'm recording this. You realize that?
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
I'm on record as agreeing with Josh. This is a bad thing. I think it is a little too early to tell. But my take would be this: is how long has AMX hung on as that second or third choice control company? They haven't enjoyed a place of preference as far as the first choice for most integrators for a long time. And I think any time that you're trying to reinvent a company, sometimes new blood is a good thing. And I know Andy Whitehead is going to stay on as part of that acquisition for 3 years. He's been shown to be an innovative guy. Maybe he'll play a role in that. Corey Schaefer's over there now. Maybe she'll play a role in that. If you think of the stock of people that have run companies that is in their fold now, even though they might not be in a quote-unquote CEO position, if they utilize that, there are a lot of positive, implications to that. So I think it could be good long-term.
Absolutely. All right. Brock, did you want to say anything about Mr. Rashid? Are you still hanging out and doing work? No, he's still hanging out and doing work. All right.
Hang on, I'm just unmuting here, Tim.
Okay. All right.
My perspective is that it was inevitable, that he won't fit into Harman's culture, no matter what he's done for the last 10 years. The truth is the company, appears to be underperforming, and Harman is going to make that company perform. Harman's a great manufacturer, and they're great marketers, and really understand how to bring product to market. I suspect that there are other people at AMX that we will see depart as well. It's a very top-heavy organization compared to the way that Harman runs their businesses, which is very lean. And this may be the first of several of that top leadership group, virtually all of whom have been there a long, long time. And in a technology business, I think Rashid's been in charge now for 10 years. Joined the company in 2001. Incredibly well liked, incredibly well respected within his own organization. But there's time for change in every business, and this will probably be good for his career. He gets to now go on and do something else on another stage where he will again succeed. But AMX needs to be turbocharged, and Harman's going to do it.
Well, I would agree with that, but I also say that I hope they don't lose his user interface drive. That was one thing that Rashid brought that I think that even the last few iterations of Crestron's touch panels, I mean, Mark said it, that AMX primarily for the control systems have been a second tier choice. But when it comes to the interfaces and the touch panels themselves, AMX has had it over Crestron for a long time. The Madero line specifically is still the sexiest, probably one of the better user interfaces in the industry.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right. From our buddies over at Extron, hang on one second. Let's see if I can bring this up here. All right. So, interesting conference call this week. Extron invited me to a conference call, and they said, "Hey, let's send you some pictures of something we're gonna roll out this week." And the first thing I said, "Is this a phone? You guys developed a freaking phone?" No. It's an interface for freaking Skype. It's an interface for soft codecs. And the interesting part about this, they're calling it the industry's first control system user interface optimized for conferencing, collaboration, and AV control. It's an interface for soft codecs, which is interesting and unique in and of itself. They've also got a USB interface that lets you bring in. It's a scaling interface. A couple other companies have got something similar to that. Lets you bring in line level as well as mic level audio. Lets you bring in HDMI and some other videos as well. So, but for the most part, and that was cool. It was good for them to get in that space. But this thing right here, this thing is cool. Now, understand this requires a control system. All right, this is an interface for their control system. You have to get into. You have to have a processor of some sort. But just on the face of it, this is kind of neat. Mr. Netto, from your standpoint, does having a physical interface for a soft codec where traditionally you have to have some sort of PC make sense, or is this a product that's just looking for a solution?
I'm not ready for that question, dude. I'm sorry. There's the problem with me sitting in a conference room. I'm not ready for it. I have people walking in and asking me questions.
All right, never mind. I'll go to Mr. Shin.
How do we throw that to Mr. Shin, who's to my left on the video screen?
Well, he's to my left too. So, how are you, sir? You're muted too. This is awesome. I love live. I freaking
Live is
love
awesome.
live.
Live
It's
is good.
awesome.
So yeah, no, I think it's a cool product. I think there's a place for it, especially in the huddle space. We're constantly being asked to cut costs on the smaller spaces so that people can collaborate and do face-to-face communication. This is another tool to be able to get there.
All right, very cool, let's go to Mr. Bill here. Bill, what is this? You guys have got conference rooms in your education space.
Well, of course. If anything, I'm liking the idea of the control interface. The other portion, and I think Extron debuted it in the same time frame, is the MediaPort 200.
That's the USB interface. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason that actually, if anything, I was reading up on the specs that caught my interest is because for a small form factor, it has echo cancellation built in, which when you look at some of your other soft codec bridges and everything, that's really rare because most of the other manufacturers have said, oh no, you want to have echo cancellation or you want to have audio teleconference hybrid bridging? Yeah, you have to get a third party for that one. So, but for this one, it seems more of just plug in your microphone, whatever it may be, and just have at it. And as I say, I like where Extron is going with this.
Yeah, I will say that it does have that built-in DSP, which if you've never messed with Extrons, It's closed. It's a static architecture. It's closed architecture DSP. So if you're used to the biamps of the world, it's not that, right? It's pretty static.
No, but if you're used to dealing with, say, like Clear One, in which there's a more of a cross-point matrix, then it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
It's configurable audio.
There you go. Configurable audio. Actually, I did ask them. I said, when are you guys going to come up with an open? And then they just kind of looked at me and said, why do you ask questions like that? So, Mr. Coxon, does this make sense for soft codecs?
I think it does, in a way. I think anytime you can eliminate some of the guesswork of what somebody's bringing into the room, I mean, if they're not having to bring their laptop into the room to facilitate the call, and you've got an appliance there that everybody knows how to use, you take a little guesswork out of it and make the room a little easier to use. And I think, stealing a little bit of a page out of Audio's book, right? Coming up with appliances to leverage soft codec, but it's a smart move because we have this software piece that we're all trying to leverage, and we need to be, as a manufacturer, you need to be in the market to do that. So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the brand newly married Dave Hatz, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Hey, guys.
So, yes, ladies, he is no longer on the market, but Bill still is, and so is Shrago. So,
hooray!
You have no idea. This is a Friday. Dave, what do you think of this soft codec interface? Are you paying attention yet? Or are you just joining us?
Yeah, no, I am, and I think it's the start of many things to come. In the industry, I think a lot of manufacturers are taking notice that there's a void for this kind of a product. The key to the success of anything, whether it's coming from a control manufacturer or one of the unified communication companies, is going to be how easy is that interface for the end users, and how familiar is it? Because one of the things right now, I mean, many companies we see are taking, Microsoft Lynx, now Skype for Business is taking off. Other soft codecs are becoming more and more popular by the day, but one of the keys is how easy is it for end users to actually use the codecs. If I get familiar with using my laptop to dial Skype for business calls, now I come into a huddle space, a conference room, a big auditorium, any of the spaces, any physical interface that we're going to put in there needs to be familiar. And I haven't done a lot of research on the Extron piece here, but that's going to be the key to success. And if they can, if they or anyone else can, make it easy to use, make it familiar, and make it work well, I think it's going to take off.
Yeah, and that actually is when I wasn't joking. The first thing I asked them, I said, "Is this a phone?" And that was my initial reaction to it. It looks like a phone. It feels like a phone. I didn't have one in my hand, but it looks like it would interface with a phone. The other thing it's got is it does have a 3.5-inch display. Now that's not touch enabled. That is one thing that I wish that they would have done is have that touch enabled. But you configure it just like in their AVGUI software, in their GUI designer software. Sorry, Mr. Shrago, from your standpoint, what does this mean for interfacing with soft codecs?
It's bigger than most people realize, based on some information I got yesterday. I spent half an hour on the phone with an attorney at the FCC yesterday, actually.
Are they suing you finally?
I'm surprised to say no. They were very, very kind at answering they were very, very kind about answering questions. I've been going back and forth with their press office for about 2 weeks now. And finally, I just asked so many questions that they just said, why don't we just put you on the phone with an attorney? So I got to ask some questions about how the open internet orders are going to apply to certain things and get direct answers from the FCC. There's going to be a piece coming out about that next week about to clarify, and based on the information that I found out yesterday, this could be a lot bigger than people realize, to giving that kind of control to the soft codecs. And it's because of this call, of course, right now, which is why I have no video. I have to hide out in dark closets and places to make sure they won't find me.
Leave it to Josh to bring an Extron box that just hits the market back to net neutrality.
An Extron box that controls what now? It controls what again, Mike? What does it control? Oh, look at that. It's
Let's
all
see. I think it only took
connected.
him 30 minutes this time.
Yeah, about 25. Brock, do you want to comment on this one too? Nope. All right, he's good. Up next, at last year AV Network. Let's take a step back. Last year AV Network did the 9. Our buddy Kelly Perkins was on the 9, and then a couple months later, our friends over at Commercial Integrator did the 30 under 30. Same kind of. I'm sorry, the 40 under 40. Almost said 30. Which a few of us on this call was on that. But the idea here is to look at young and up and coming people in the industry. The reason I want to bring this up is because I actually met a couple of these folks at Infocom this year, and I'm very, very excited. The one I want to point out, the one that especially is Victoria, and I'm going to botch her name, Barilla. She is actually graduating from Columbia College up in Chicago, your neck of the woods, Mr. Hatz. She is a burgeoning programmer, and oh man, this girl blew my mind in talking with her at Infocom this year. So I guess the biggest question right now is not education, but education, right? Dave, I'll pick on you first. When it comes to bringing new talent and young talent into the industry, what is it that we have to do?
That's the question. We actually, I sat and had a powwow in the lobby at the hotel at Infocom with a couple of our VPs and stuff, having that very discussion. That there's so much young talent that we need to find a way to get into our industry. And we kicked away around. Is it a matter of internships? Is it a matter of co-op programs? Is it a matter of bringing people in for almost like a 1-year trial contract type of thing? But looking at those at the talent out of college, and even while they're in college, and trying to find those who probably haven't considered AV as a career, but are considering programming, are considering computers, are considering record. Traditionally it's been recording and the sort of the sound production, the video production. But what other groups of talent can we find that haven't considered the AV industry as an option? But I always look for that programmer who knows they don't want to sit in a cubicle, write C# line code to control databases and sort of the traditional I'm going to call it the boring programming because that's the way I see it. But how can we find those people who who want to tinker, who want to experience something different, and get them in front of an AV system, get them into our industry, to expose them to it. And maybe you find that they'd rather be they gravitate towards engineering, maybe they gravitate towards programming, towards field service work, towards any aspect of it. But let's get them in the company, and then get them exposed to everything, and then we can figure out what kind of a career path they really want to choose within the AV industry, or if they even do.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Shin, you and I are in similar situations where we're still looking. We're constantly looking for programmers, for engineers. I'm personally, my company Innovad, we look for programmers. Where do you go to look for young talent?
Well, I've pretty much searched everywhere, used every website there is to advertise positions and to try and recruit, and I've been pretty disappointed. I think that one of the things that Chuck Wilson and the NSCA are trying to do is be a resource for integrators like IMS and yourself, Innovad, and consultants as well, to try and recruit that young talent. So how do we go about doing that? I know Kelly Perkins and I, being new board members of the Education Foundation, are being asked to bring those ideas to the table so we can try and recruit that talent into the industry. And in my opinion, we need to target social media. We need to target college programs that are in alignment with the industry, whether that be IT or communication or the digital arts, and let people know that there is an industry out there that's a multi-billion-dollar industry with plenty of small and large companies with plenty of growth and opportunities for you to make a very good career. And please come and find out more information. education. So, it's kind of like looking at it from a recruiting standpoint. We need to target them before they even hit the job market. We need to start teaching them that this is a viable option for them before they choose to major in marketing or to go into accounting just because, well, that's what I heard, where I heard all the jobs were. So, hopefully the industry can latch on to that concept, and I know NSCA is trying very hard to do that, and I think Infocom is doing their best as well.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, I know a few of your backgrounds, right? Brock, who's doing work, but Brock used to, build really cool, clubs and discos back in the day, and Mr. Netto used to play DJ music in some of those same clubs, and I have a radio background, so it's a lot of that broadcasting, but there's not like this you go to school for to be a programmer. Yes, there's computer science classes and this, that, and the other, but you've got to grab those folks as they're in their third semester, into their third year, into their fourth year, and say, hey, yes, you're getting a degree in computer science. Let me show you some really wicked things you can do with that. So, Mr. Netto, Mr. DJ, how do we get folks into the industry?
You let them in for free on Friday nights, and you promise that their friends can get into it.
That's ladies' night.
How you used to get girls, Chris.
Well, I mean, if you really want to do, you have to build the buzz, and the buzz you can either start at the top with the associations, with Infocom, with NSCA. Earlier this week I put out a tweet congratulating Mike and Kelly for going, for being selected to the board of the Educational Foundation. And I've had this discussion with some people. I think that's a small step to a bigger role. I think that the Mikes and Kellys of the world, yeah, that's fine that they're going into the educational, but they need to inject that youth and the ideas and creativity into their board. The big guys. As much as we want to go there and say, yes, we're doing our part individually of recruiting and all that, but I think that these organizations, the NSCAs, the Infocoms of the world, really need to inject, the younger, fresher ideas into their board, which is typically reserved for the good old boys network.
The old white guys.
Yeah, however you want to refer to it. So until that day, I'm happy that they went into the educational side, but get them into where the big boys are making decisions about the bigger things.
Absolutely.
Education, I think, is very important. No disrespect, Mike, but I'd much rather have seen you go up to the higher level where you can say, you know what, guys, this is where we need to go. We need to go to a Madison Media Institute. We need to go to these colleges where there are kids playing with our technology, whether it is smart home, whether it's IoT. And we cannot just simply brand ourselves as we just got to target computer people, because there is a creative side, and that's what brought me into this industry, is that there's a creative side to this business. Yeah. Whether it's designing a GUI, you can be a great programmer. If you don't know shit about how you're doing, and I just dropped the S-bomb, if you don't know how to create...
It's been 4 years. It's been 4 freaking years, Chris.
I'm sorry, man. But hey, it's live. So if you don't know nothing about how to do... properly setting up the GUIs, properly setting up the, touch panel layouts. You can be the greatest programmer in the world and making it all work, but if it's ugly and if it doesn't make sense, if you're using terms that are, it's human interface design. There's a study to that, but there's also color concepts and all that. There's a certain amount of creativity that comes to our industry that needs to be applied to our daily jobs. So it's not necessarily an SAT answer type of thing. It is, you have to get the well-rounded people. I'll leave it at that.
Well, and I mentioned Victoria, the young lady that I talked to at Infocom. She's actually my buddy Jeremy Caldera, which is a sort of competitor to David AVI Systems. Jeremy works for ZDI down in Norma, Illinois, 2.5 hours due south. But Jeremy teaches at Columbia College, right? So there's a college right there besides Madison Media. College in Chicago where there's actual classes and you can take classes there. I think I don't know if Jeff Lips still teaches there or not. I'll have to ask him. Mr. Schrago, from your standpoint, how do we get folks involved in the industry?
Give them an alternative. The fact is, I mean, coming out of Silicon Valley, and I had the privilege of meeting Victoria as well. She was bright, she was energetic, she was eager. But at the same point, the interesting part that I took from it wasn't that she knew what she wanted to do. She was still learning her options. And she was trying to figure out, do I go to a programming house? Where can I do the kinds of things that I'm interested in doing? And she was still sort of figuring that part as to how to take her interests and apply them to this industry. So while I'm a big proponent of education, I have been for a long, long time in terms of making sure that people understand what we do. I'm a big proponent in getting our trade organizations and getting those on the outside and even those in the integrators in the local markets to preach to the public what it is that we do and why we're a unique industry and what it is that separates us from other things like IT or like the recording industries and the creativity that goes into what we do. There's also that certain component, once you draw the interest, you have to show them what their options are. And starting to explain to people that have any kind of technical acumen what their options are and showing that there are options beyond the things that they generally expect. I mean, right here, I'm sitting 5 miles from from the university that places more engineers in Silicon Valley than any other in the Bay Area in San Jose State. And I have honestly no clue what their experience is within the industry and what their knowledge is in terms of what the industry provides. And that's the kind of thing where expanding that knowledge out and expanding that conversation out to explain to the public. You know, we do a great job of selling to our clients, but what do we sell to the public? And because our clients are often corporations or enterprises, we're not necessarily dealing with them on a personal level or that level that explains something beyond their immediate need or their immediate need for the next building for the next 18 months to 3 years, depending on the length of a project. And we aren't getting that public message out there very well. It's starting to emerge recently, but it's still in its infancy and it's still being crafted.
Yeah. All right, Mr. McGinnis, are you good on this one? Yep. Alrighty, Mr. McGinnis.
Tim, if I could actually, just for one last comment.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Interrupt Brock. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, number one, Chris, I completely agree with you, which is why I'm kind of excited to be named to the board, is hopefully to infuse some of those ideas, some of those out-of-the-box concepts. Josh, I completely agree with you as well, that we as an industry suck at publicizing the industry. And so I'm saying that I think it's up to the organizations, NSCA, Infocom, I'll even say even trade shows, AES, NAB, it's up to those groups and those conglomerates to start being public advocates for the industry in more ways than just letting people know that we exist. How about in terms of government lobbying? How about in terms of positioning us?
You really want to bring up government lobbying in this industry with me on this call?
Oh, jeez.
I was giving you a softball, man.
Oh, jeez. That was a landmine.
My point is, you know, I think that it can't be left up to the integrators, whether it's, you know, the large $500 million integrator or the small $2 million integrator or $1 million integrator, to try and carry the entire weight of marketing the industry to the world. And I think that that's why we pay membership fees to these organizations, and we need the organizations to really step up and start helping us in that regard.
Yeah.
We need a CTS to be as recognizable as a CCNA.
And a CompTIA. Exactly.
CompTIA, yeah. All right, Brock, from your standpoint, how do we get more people involved in AV?
We go out and find them. I completely disagree with both Mike and Josh. I don't think that this is a marketing job that somebody else, some magical somebody else is going to do for us. This is a one-at-a-time recruiting or proselytizing process. I don't think that any of the half dozen of us on this call responded to or ended up in the AV industry because we saw a poster that said, "Join the industry. It's a wonderful place to be." We came here because of connections with people. We came here because of innate or inherent interests in specific technologies. And somebody asked us to come into the business. Somebody grabbed us. Like Chris, I was a DJ once upon a time, probably before Chris was born.
He was still spinning wax cylinders when they were actually made of wax.
Oh, wow. Oh, come on.
To be fair, I did actually say that it was up to the local integrators themselves to do outreach in their own community. I didn't say that it was just the trade shows.
Yeah, and I don't think it's outreach. I don't think it's it is a specific marketing kind of a thing. We're not attractive. We don't hang a pretty sign or poster on.
Heard it here, folks. Brock just called the industry ugly.
I said we're not attractive, Josh, and we have to find people one at a time, and nobody's ever going to deliver them to them. Nobody's ever going to do this work for us, Josh. And nobody's ever going to make your job sexy by having interviews on Good Morning America with Infocom. We do what we do because, well, for most of us, it's the only thing we actually know how to do.
There is that. But let me ask you a question, Brock, and I'm going to equate this very carefully because there's a rule in broadcasting. You don't there's three rails you never touch, and one of them is religion. But is this sort of a religious type proselytizing where it's person to person? I mean, there's no great televangelist version of AV, so it's more of a door to door type thing.
Correct.
So it's a Jehovah's Witness?
I didn't, Lord. Thank you, Bill.
Would you prefer the Mormon example?
No, I would prefer neither.
At least then we're in teams.
and we're in suit and tie.
And we're coming off the rails now.
Good night. All right. Well, we're 40 minutes in, guys. Thank you for helping me out and doing this and just kind of having fun.
We got to end it.
Huh?
Why do you got to end it?
Well, I've got a plane to catch. So yeah, I'm heading out to. I'm actually heading to Dallas this weekend. So I'm.
Why don't we talk about what you're doing in Dallas there, sir?
I'm interviewing for the CEO job of AMX. If you need it.
You heard it here first.
He plans on walking up to Paul Zealy and going, "You are my minion now."
You are my minion, Paul Zealy. Oh, that would be awesome. Are you kidding me?
Jamie, that means that, as I say, that means you might be on par with Bradford Ben as director of Global Takeover.
I'm actually so Dawn Mead, AV Dawn, found this convention. It's called Podcast Movement, and it's a podcast convention. And one of my personal heroes in podcasting and broadcasting in general, Leo Laporte, is one of the keynoters, the guy that does Mark Maron, the guy who does WTF podcast, who just recently interviewed the president for crying out loud for a podcast, was on there. So yeah, heading down there this afternoon for a weekend in Dallas. So
it's the only way to grow, man.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing. The one thing I've learned in my 40 some odd years is I don't know everything, right? I hope I never get to the point where I think I do again. So always learn, right? Always learn, always grow from somebody, and learn from somebody that's got more experience than you do. So,
but if I can add something to that as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Next movement. It is now confirmed as well that AV Nation will be at New York Digital Signage Week this year in November.
Huzzah!
It'll be our first time there. We're actually going to be working with the company that runs it in Daily Do. We had a very good meeting yesterday to go over what that is, what that entails, and from the conversations that we had, this is more than just getting digital signage players behind TVs. This is it's the bigger conversations. It's the Daktronics. It's the scoreboard type, massive stadium-sized display boards. Stuff that we see and go, wow, that's interesting. And to actually get to see some of the inner workings of how that works, because in our industry,
they make the Jumbotron wrap around like that.
Well, and don't forget, I mean, Daktronics is not exactly somebody to sneeze at. I mean, Daktronics has been involved in some pretty significant AV installs. I mean, they were one of the leads inside both Wrigley Field and the Cincinnati Reds stadium.
But in conversations with people in the industry that I've asked, I said, how are people involved in that? Because there's different segments within our industry. You know, there's the ones that obviously we know it as commercial resi, and then it all trickles and splits from there. There's the UC guys that are considered AV. Well, I mean, it's very niche, but yes, there are the stadium sound people, there's stadium scoreboard people. There are integrators that play in that space. You know of it because they get the covers of the magazines and the nice, center spread on one of those fancy magazines that we all write for. It's very cool. I'd love to know more about it. But you don't just walk up to these guys and go, tell me more about how you got that job and what that job's about. This is where our industry clamps up. It's the opposite of how we are. We're looking to go out there and talk and find out more about what's out there within our industry and share that information. Well, the old schoolers, they're very tight-lipped about how that stuff is. And we get that, and I get that. So if you're not going to tell me, I'm going to find a way to understand it better. So you go to the source. These are guys that have been dealing with this stuff and deal with it in a much larger scale than I've ever seen. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm dying to go and see what we can bring back to the masses that they're willing to share with us, because we can't wait on anybody else giving us this information. We might as well go out and get it ourselves. So.
Yeah, absolutely. When is Digital Signage Week?
November. I'm not going to quote. I'm not going to quote that date. I don't know the specific date offhand. But it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be a really cool time.
Absolutely. Well. All right. Last thing, and I've mentioned this before in a couple things, and I'm going to take a couple minutes about our underwriters. Right. Go to our website at avnation.tv. You'll find out more about our underwriters. We've got a lot of great companies. We have industry advocacy companies like Avenue Alliance and HT Base T. We have some really great manufacturers like Vadio and Extron and Crestron and a lot of really great folks. We've Draper. You've got Middle Atlantic. You have a lot of different ones, and then you've got a couple of folks who've come on that are actually integrators. Advanced AV is the first integrator to jump on. So I just wanted to say thanks and congratulations. Oh. So anyhow, if you want more information and how to join and how to help us do things like Digital Signage Week, like we're going to CD in a couple months, we'll go to ISE again, and we'll do InfoCom again next year. So just wanted to say thanks to them guys. All right, Mr. Bill O'Donnell, if people want to find you, track you down, or ask you out on a date, how do they do so?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, or they can just as easily find me on Twitter. That seems to be the quickest way to find me. Along with my mental weekend exercise of doing the AV hashtag stuff. So there's always that.
All right, very good. Mr. Brock McGinnis, thank you, sir.
I'm having difficulty unmuting here.
Oh, you're fine. I can hear you.
Oh, that's a first.
Oh, good night.
People don't need to find me. I'll find them.
Understood. All right. Mr. Netto, my guerrilla marketer, thank you.
No, thank you, man. Everybody knows where to find me at Chris_Netto and all over the interwebs. All
right. Dave Hetz, my buddy from Chicago, thank you, sir.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, man. AVIsystems.com, at Dave Hetz AVI on Twitter.
All right, very cool. Mr. Josh Strego, my FCC correspondent, thank you, brother.
Yup. This was fun. It was a nice little experiment today.
Yeah.
I can definitely say that everything there's some interesting things going on in the backgrounds right now, and if all comes to fruition, it's going to be a very, very, very interesting fall.
Yes, and currently everything he's saying now will be used against him in court later on.
Most likely, yes.
To be fair, I haven't said anything incriminating, nor have I quoted anyone directly. Therefore, libel and/or slander is not applicable. But thank you for bringing me about to my legalese.
Yeah, there's some really cool things going down. So, Michael Shen, IMS, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. IMStechnologyservices.com, Twitter at AXPMike.
And just for those of us who are following the American version of football, do you know what next week is?
The first game the Bears lose?
Yeah, first game the Bears lose. Thank you very much. Good night. The start of preseason.
So the first game the Bears lose.
I'm kind of done with baseball already. So, all right. Don't follow me if you want. It's at TD Albright, where I will be tweeting about the Bears losing for the foreseeable future. I think Cutler's contract is up in like 4 years. So, go by the website if you would please, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. I mentioned the EdTech show. We also recorded a brand new State of Control, which is out this week. Mark Coxon, by the way, was on earlier. He had to drop off and go to work. So his Twitter handle is at AVPhenom, PHENOM. So check him out too. But yeah, check out the website, avnation.tv. Check out our underwriters. Tell them thank you so very much for helping us do this and all the other stuff that we do. So, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for watching. This has been AV Week.